All right. Well, due to very popular request here, I'm going to be taking another look at Duck's Britanniarvm, and we are actually going to be playing at least one game, maybe more. Depends on how the campaign goes here. But I don't know if many of my viewers have seen this or not. I did a video on this maybe almost 2 years ago now, and I had played around with it back then. I'd finished painting up the forces, and then I got sidetracked with many other projects here. So today I am going to basically show you what I have completed in terms of the forces here, and just to do a quick recap on this game. It is about basically in Britain after the fall of Rome, when the Romano-Britons were pretty much left stranded there on the island, and the Saxons had slowly started to come and invade the territory and take over the island. So this is pretty much the start of the Dark Ages here. This is a very, very heavy campaign-driven system. I would classify it as being very similar to Sharp Practice. It is a two fat lardies game, so you're going to have the shock system. It is a card driven system as well, um, and all that good stuff that usually comes along with the two fat lardies game. So it has a lot of similarities to Sharp Practice in terms of the character generation and the campaign system, although a lot of differences as well in the campaign system. I would say that this probably revolves more around the campaign and the story than Sharp Practice until you get into the Dawns and Departures expansion for Sharp Practice. Then you're getting more along the lines of what you're getting out of Ducks. So with this game, you start off either as the Romano-Britons or the Saxons, and your opponent takes whatever force you don't. And then you generate your characters and you start raiding. Basically, you choose a territory. The Romano-Britons choose a territory where their holdings are, and then that is where the game will take place, and that's where the Saxons will be invading. They start off with smaller raids, cattle raids, looting missions, stuff like that, until you gain a certain reputation. You start building up more and more forces, and then it basically turns into an all out war. You can build and maintain forts, worry about resources, develop your characters even further, have inner power struggles inside your own force, and it creates a very dramatic and very fulfilling story if you play the campaign through. The snowball effect, I'm not sure of. I haven't delved that far into the campaign system to tell, although from what I've read, it seems to have some balancing issues to where it, or not balancing issues, but balancing measures to where it kind of tries to balance out those snowball effects and creates it from becoming a one-sided affair throughout a long and arduous campaign. So, just a heads up, after this video, I will be doing a review or a look through. I have shown you this before. If you haven't watched the video yet, I suggest going back through my videos and finding where I went through this book in its entirety and explain it in depth. But I hadn't at the time had purchased this book, in which now I have. And this actually adds the Picts, the Scotty, and who else? The Irish as well. So, oh yeah, my thumb was covering the Irish. I was wondering why I didn't say the Irish in there. However, so it covers those three, and it also adds more mercenary factions in to the campaign. So actually, you can turn this into a large campaign system with up to 5 players, even more if you want to add in more Romano-British players or another faction. I'm sure you could create a very large multiplayer campaign with this system. I'm sure it could easily be done. The campaign, you can pretty much keep track of it on one sheet of paper. So if you're going to go that big, I'm sure the record keeping would be a little more, but it's still simplistic enough to where it shouldn't be that complicated. Anyway, so what I'm going to do with this video, like I said, is just kind of show you the forces that I have made up so far, the Romano-British and the Saxons. So we can go ahead and zoom right on over here, and we'll take a look at my Romano-British first. And I don't think I can get them all in there at the same time here, but We'll see. I know that little cottage up top there is maybe a little bit out of the period. I made this out of paper, actually. This is a paper building that I created out of a manila folder here and just painted it up and added layers to it using, cutouts from the folder itself. So that was a building that I made from scratch, and it was originally going to be for like a medieval / Renaissance or even Napoleonics, but since I don't have any Dark Age hovels or huts built up yet, I'm going to be using buildings similar to that for the time being. You can see some of the terrain I have down here, little cabbage patch, some vine fields, another larger field. These are all scratch made, custom made. These little bushes were made from one of the green sponge, what are those, Brillo pads, something like that. I just cut them up, shredded them up really good, pasted them on top of each other, and sprayed and highlighted them green. They were already green to start with. So anyway, besides the terrain, let's get down to the miniatures themselves. So to start off, the Romano Britons are going to start off with a warlord, or a lord, a king, whatever. Not a king yet, because you don't start off as a king. You just start off as a low-level lord. I don't remember the exact definitions from the book, but you start off with your lord and his personal champion, and then you start off as well with 2 subordinate leaders as well. So your lord is going to be classed as level 3, whereas your subordinates will be classed as level 2 leaders. And then the Romano-British will start off with 1 elite heavily armored unit, and those are down there at the base of the hill. We'll zoom in and take a closer look at them here in just a moment. But they're also going to have 2 units of medium infantry, and then 3 units of levy. Levy are these 3 right here, and 1 unit of 4 archers or slingers. I chose archers because that's what I happen to buy. So the Saxons, on the other hand, they're not going to have the levy. They're going to have a total of 1 less unit when they start out with, but like I said, they don't have levy. They are going to have pretty much the same leader composition. Sorry about my fat finger there. They're going to have the same leader composition. You're going to have your warlord, basically, which is your class 3 leader, and then he's going to have a champion alongside him. You're going to have 2 subordinate leaders, which are going to be class 2, and then you will have 3 units of medium troops as opposed to the Romano-British 2 units. So you'll have 3 units of medium troops, and then you'll have 2 units of elite heavily armored soldiers as well, with no levy. And you'll also have either 4 bowmen, 4 slingers. I have bowmen in this case. So the composition there is you're down 1 unit, but you have 1 more unit of heavy elite infantry, and you have 1 extra unit of medium infantry. So the quality on the Saxon side overall is higher than the Romano-British side, but the Romano-British, obviously, they have the 1 extra unit, so they have the advantage in numbers. But not only that, they can shield wall. The Romano-British can form shield wall in tight formations, whereas the Saxons cannot. They were more disorganized with smaller shields overall for the most part. So the Romano-British will have some advantages in there. So it kind of evens it out. You have, higher quality aspects on both sides of the field, and I think that evens it out rather well. And also, for the most part, the Romano-British will be on the defensive until later in the campaign, where they're really getting into counterattacking and trying to take back some of their land that they may have lost. But for the most part, early campaign, the British are going to be on the defensive, which will allow them to utilize those shield walls more and pick their stance, their final line of defense where they want to make their stand, and etc. So let's go ahead and take a close-up look here at some of the, I just can't keep my fingers out of the camera there, can I? So let me move this right over here, and we'll take a look at a couple of the levy units here. And all of these units are by Splintered Light. Let me see if I can get the focus in there. Oh, come on, focus. There we go. And all of these units, these figures, are by Splintered Light. The shield transfers, little big men, I want to say. So there's a regular levy. And here's another levyman. I'll show you a couple more levy just for the heck of it, but they all pretty much look, you know, the same. No armor, cloth, spear, shield. So that's the levy. Here is one of the class 2 leaders right here, leaning on a shield. That is one of the subordinate leaders. And then we can go ahead and take a look at the medium infantry. The medium infantry have cloth armor as well, but they have helmets. Now, one easy identification difference I have made between the levy and the medium infantry, if you can't spot their helmets, because some of the levy have gray hair that looks similar to helmets, are the shields. The medium infantry have all black shields, whereas the levy have red designs on their shields. So that is a quick identification means from the far away on the tabletop if you don't feel like bending down to look. But there's another medium infantry right there. And I'll show you one more. So there's one more. And that is the medium infantry. And then we have the other subordinate leader here, the level 2 leader. And I do have extras so I can change them up. I also have standard bearers, musicians, a priest for the Romano-British, and I have some pagan, whatever you want to call them, pagan witches, whatever. There is the warlord's champion right here. And the lord himself is going to be this gentleman right here. So then we have their elite infantry, which are heavily armored units. You can see the chainmail helmets, etc. So they are much more heavily armored than your standard Romano-British. And we'll take a look at another one. So that's the Romano-British for the most part. You can add cavalry in this game, which I will be doing eventually. Got a lot of other projects going on at the same time. So we'll take a look at the elite for the Saxons. And let me see how I can hold these without getting my hands in the way too much. So you can see they have the chainmail armor, shield, spear, or sword, or axe. There's one. And there's a nice variety of poses in these miniatures from Splintered Light. And the little big men transfers worked very nice. Here is probably my favorite character that I painted out of all of these forces so far. This is one of the subordinate leaders for the Saxons. You can see him leaning on the shield there. Let me see if I can get a close-up on that shield. It has some angels fighting and angels blowing trumpets and blood splattered across the front of the shield there. I really dug that shield there a lot. This guy is one of my favorites, actually. So that's him. A couple more elites here. And we'll show you one more for the heck of it. And there's the elites. Now we'll show you the Warlord's champion right here, the Warlord's big man. I was going to do some tattoos on there, but I think I need to up my skill level painting wise before I try and do something like that here. And then the Warlord himself. And then the regular infantry are classified as medium infantry. Once again, the Saxons have no levy infantry. wide variety of poses and shields. I think this army looks very good. And then, of course, the bowmen. I don't think I showed you the bowmen on the Romano-British side, but, you know, they're bowmen. So, oh yeah, and the other level 2 leader here. So there's the other leader for the Saxons, subordinate. Guy looks pretty tough, actually. So that's them. Maybe give you a quick zoom by here. Fold the legs on this camera in. Sorry for the shakiness. That way I can get a little closer here. So that's them, guys. I hope you'll stick around for the opening and reading of the Raiders supplement here that we're getting ready to take a look at. And then afterwards, we'll be playing a game and we'll see how that goes. I'm not sure if my son's going to join me in this or not. It may be solo, maybe against my son. My son's 16, so he's quite capable of putting me down if he rolls the right dice here. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining me. And till next time, stay safe.